So good evening and welcome to the regular board meeting of the Board of the School District of Springfield Township. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A reading of the mission statement. The mission of the School District of Springfield Township is to educate and develop all students as learners and citizens who are high achieving, resilient, and responsible in a changing global community. Roll call, Ms. Michaels.
Mr. Bedard.
Here.
Mr. DeFranco.
Here.
Dr. Etlin.
Here.
Ms. Jordan.
Here.
Mr. Lapidus. Mr. Needleman.
Here.
Ms. Sarsfield. Ms. Lipinski.
Here.
Dr. Taratusky.
Here. And our announcements. The board at its discretion may videotape all or any portion of the public board meetings subject to the limitations set forth in policy 006.2, broadcasting of meetings. Board meetings will be broadcast on Friday afternoon following the board meeting. I also wanted to make an announcement this evening for those of you who are online. The board has considered the question and answer feature in the webinar, as well as the chat. And with a lot of comments coming back and forth through the question and answer period, and through the question and answer feature, and through the chat, the board really finds it hard to focus on the individuals who are speaking and raising public comment at that time. So we have turned off those features for the Zoom webinar. The chat is actually one way. If you would like to speak this evening, there is now an electronic sign-up sheet. So if you sign up for the Zoom webinar, you will be directed to a sign-up sheet where you can fill it out in the same way that you would fill it out if you're here in public, in person. And you can, for this evening, put your request to speak in the chat or raise your hand, use the hand raise feature. Please do not put a comment in the chat. If you put a comment in the chat, we will not be able to read it. You must give that comment. We want to hear that from the public. So that is it's kind of a change of our structure for the evening. And it's to allow everyone the courtesy of being heard at this time, and for the board to be able to hear and focus on and pay attention to those of you who are speaking. I want to also call your attention to the policy 903, which is our existing board policy for public participation in board meetings. And according to that policy, the board requests that each person can speak at least once during the two comment periods. So they can speak once in the first comment period, which is on agenda items, and once in the second comment period, which is on non-agenda items. We will have a total of 30 minutes during each comment period for comments. And so we do, as we have always, try to limit comments to about 3 minutes. Ms. Michaels will be our timekeeper for this evening so that she can make sure that everybody has the opportunity again to be heard. Okay. So at this time, we have a public comment for agenda items. And the sign up here in public, there are none. And the sign up online, there are none. Okay.
We are going to check the hand raise feature.
Okay.
And I will just toggle to that now.
Mm-hmm.
And among the attendees, no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. All right, so we'll move on to approval of minutes. In the approval of minutes, we're approving motion to approve the August 3rd, 2021 interim meeting minutes and the August 17th, 2021 regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Ms. Michaels?
Mr. Bedard,
Aye.
Mr. DeFranco,
Aye.
Dr. Etlin, Ms. Jordan, Mr. Needleman,
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski,
Aye.
Dr. Teretuski.
Aye. Can I ask Mr. Oliver or Mr. Wexler, Kat Sarsfield, is she in on our participants list? One of our board members. She should be participating on Zoom. She said she was. Okay. Can you, can someone send her a new link? Thanks. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Oh, she's here. Okay. Very good. Thank you. The pleasure of technology. All right, so the approval of Treasurer's Report. The Board of School Directors approves the August 31st, 2021 Treasurer's Report. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second? Second. Any comments or questions? Okay, Ms. Michaels?
Mr. Bedard,
Aye.
Mr. DeFranco,
Aye.
Dr. Etlin, Ms. Jordan, Mr. Needleman, Ms. Sarsfield,
Pat, you'll have to unmute. She's not,
I
okay,
don't see her under the panelist.
okay. Is she on, she's not on under the panelists, okay.
I don't see her on the list.
Okay, she said she's online, but she is not able to unmute.
Now I am.
Okay,
So
thank you.
now, hi, now I'm a panelist. So here we are. Yes.
thank you, Ms. Lipinski.
Aye.
Dr. Teretuski.
Aye. And I'd like to call up Emily Kerr for our next item. We're going to start with reports and information. Number 1, a donation to CHOP. Zachary Harris, U.S. Benefits Employee Services. Ms. Kerr?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Emily Kerr. I'm the Director of Human Resources for the district. And joining me today are Joe Walsh and Zachary Harris from U.S. Benefit Services. And we have Doug Kressel on virtually joining us as well. So recently this past year, we worked with these gentlemen to look at our voluntary benefit program, and also COVID, going through that experience, made us realize that a lot of services that we offer in human resources and the benefits that we offer to employees sometimes need to be offered virtually, or at least have the experience to go through them virtually. That also allowed our employees, or us, to look at the benefits that we offer to make sure employees know their benefits more. After going through a global pandemic, everyone wants to know what benefits that they are afforded as employees. So working with U.S. Benefits, we were able to find an online benefit platform to use actually for free through our voluntary benefit providers to offer employees open enrollment online for free, and offer them the ability to speak to a benefit counselor to get to learn more about their benefits as they select them through open enrollment. Additionally, through that, they offered a donation on the district's behalf. So here tonight, they're here to present that donation to us, and I'm going to allow them to speak a little bit about their company and the donation that's being provided on the district's behalf.
Thank you, Emily. And before I introduce myself, I'd like to let my partner from our...
Sorry, you're going to have to get a little
Oh,
closer to the
I'm
mic.
sorry. I'd like to allow my partner, Doug Kressel, to introduce himself and his company. He was really instrumental in helping us to bring this to fruition, especially during a time that's been as unprecedented as 2020 and 2021 has been. Doug, please.
Perfect. Thanks, Zach, and thanks, Emily. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So again, my name is Doug Kressel, and I'm actually one of the co-founders of Benefit Children. I wish I could be there in person tonight, but unfortunately, my daughter in school was in close contact with somebody that came down with COVID, so we're still in quarantine mode right now. But hopefully we'll get our results back soon, and no symptoms so far. So hopefully we'll be back in school very soon. But for those that are not familiar with Benefit Children, it's a cause marketing program designed for the insurance industry. I'm a managing partner of a company called National Benefit Partners, and we conduct due diligence and research on different insurance companies and service providers in the marketplace. And then we bring that research out to different producers such as Zach and Joe Walsh from U.S. Employee Benefits and Service Groups. And our basically goal is to try to find the best-in-class voluntary benefit providers and service providers in the marketplace and really do kind of a hands-on due diligence research with them. And several years ago, we decided that we really wanted to incorporate some kind of cause marketing program into what we do in our everyday lives to really give back to the community that we service on an everyday basis. And that's where we came up with the idea of benefits that benefit children. And through that program, we get to raise money by just speaking to employees. There's no purchase necessary, but if we can get to educate the employees on the valuable benefits that the schools offer their employees, then that triggers a donation. So overall, I do just want to thank Springfield School District, Emily, your great HR staff, because really without you, this wouldn't have been possible tonight. Zach and Joe, and also kind of Chubb Insurance, they all came together to really create this donation for you. We just, came up with the concept, and it's been working pretty well. And we were able to raise a lot of money for, in this case, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. But with, Emily and the HR's great support behind this, we really kind of got this to push out to all the different employees, benefit eligible employees that you have, to go meet with the benefits counselor, learn about the new benefit administration system, learn about the healthcare plan, all the different benefits that are offered, and learn about the voluntary benefits that are available to them, and ask questions and to figure out if that's right for them and their family. And if not, it's not. And if it is, perfect. We are there to kind of answer questions for them. And because of that, and because of the great encouragement that we have from Springfield School District, we were able to see 97% of the employees, which is a phenomenal number, so something that you should be very proud of. And because we got to see 97% of the employees, and there's a $10 donation per employee, we're able to raise over $4,340 for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Now, unfortunately, Representative from CHOP wasn't able to be here tonight, but they did want me to thank you on their behalf. And I know Zach has a little thank you note that he'll talk about in a second, along with the check. But I do want to just mention kind of where this money is going to. It's going to the Children's Fund, and that's an unrestricted account at CHOP. And what do I mean by an unrestricted account? It's not earmarked for a specific department or a specific area to raise money for a specific cause. This is an unrestricted account, meaning that it goes into a general fund, and where CHOP believes they need the money the most, that's where the money is then spent on. To give you a couple of examples of recent things that this Children's Fund account did fund, recently they have helping breastfeeding moms and vulnerable infants. So it's been shown that breast milk has more nutritional value than formula, even though it's close, but it is very healthy for babies. So what they did is they started a nonprofit where they collected breast milk from various mothers, and then they can use that, especially for some of the sick infants that are at the hospital. Another service that they started was expanding language services to help families in the community. Obviously, not everybody speaks English, so they wanted to have free services for individuals, whether they call in, no matter what language they speak. They have interpreters to help them understand what the doctor's saying, and then obviously vice versa, so the doctors can understand what their children are going through. And even if a person has to go in person, they have an individual that would accompany that person and help them communicate back and forth. And then the last thing that they recently funded was expanding sexual abuse treatment for adolescents. So not only is there a physical toll to adolescents that are unfortunately sexually abused, but the mental toll that's there. So they're expanding kind of their mental health resources to help those children kind of regain their footing and get back on track. So Zach, with that, I'll kind of turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Doug. So as everyone in the room and virtually was able to gather from Doug's brief presentation, we really believe in this cause marketing, more commonly known as corporate social responsibility, obviously corporate being loosely interpreted here in the public sector. But we really want to give thanks to Emily and her team, as we've mentioned, to the board and their support, and those of us that are not present in this room, but helped to make this a reality. Billendale Associates has been around since 1975. Joe and his father-in-law built a very reputable firm that's allowed us to work with over 50 school districts across the Pennsylvania area. It's our specialty, and we believe in partnering with other sister firms through the U.S. family of companies, such as Doug's, that have allowed us to bring both leverage and programs that we feel maximize the total spend that you give to your employees. So with that, I'd like to present this check to the board and to Emily. Congratulations, Emily. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Okay, here we are. I got it.
Thanks again, everyone. Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, and then I'd like to invite up Keisha Bronson to give us information on the STHSP, EEHSP, and MPA. Is Keisha here?
I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Keisha.
So I have a question. Can you guys see me as well? That just is going to qualify what my background looks like. I'm assuming-
Can we promote Keisha to a panelist?
You don't have to. Please, audio is just fine.
It's okay.
Okay. So thank you for the time. As mentioned, I'm actually going to give the report for all three of the parent associations. I'll start with the MPA, the Multicultural Parents Association. They invite all families to join them for their annual back to school picnic on Sunday, September 26th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at Cisco Park. Further, please save the date for the first MPA meeting of the year, which will be held on Thursday, October 14th at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. Look for more information on both events in the weekly e-blast from each of the schools, including links to sign up. On behalf of the STSHSP, which is a secondary home and school partnership for the middle and high school, the Springfield Township Secondary Home and School Partnership will kick off its membership drive at the high school and middle school back to school nights. The STHS, the high school back to school night, is Thursday, September 23rd from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And the middle school back to school night is the 30th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. We are looking forward to all parents' support and participation as we usher in the new school year. Please mark your calendars for our first general meeting, which will be held on Wednesday, October 20th at 7 p.m., also via Zoom. Dr. Yannicone, Dr. Rittenhouse, and Mr. Fuller will all provide the district and school updates, and we will review many ways for everyone to be involved with the STS-HSP. Zoom link will be sent at about 2 weeks prior to the meeting in the school e-blast. We also invite you to visit our website at stshsp.org or follow us on Facebook at Springfield Township Secondary HSP, Montco, PA, and Twitter, Springfield Township HSP at STSHSP, or through the weekly e-blast. So lots of ways to stay connected to all the different events and things that we have going on. And then finally, the EEHSP, which is the Home and School Partnership for both Enfield and Ertenheim at the elementary level. Their first general body meeting will be Monday, October 4th, also via Zoom. And information on how to sign up for that will be sent through the school blast. An upcoming Dine and Donate will also be posted on the Facebook page and the website. And just the Dine and Donates are opportunities to dine at certain restaurants in the community, in which a portion of the proceeds comes back to the HSPs. We're also working on a fall fundraiser for Trunk or Treat this year, which will be held closer to the end of October near the Halloween holiday. More information to come. On behalf of all 3 parent association organizations, that is the update for this evening. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Keisha. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
All right. The third item under reports and information is our property committee report. Mr. Michael Needleman.
Sorry. I want to make sure the mic was on you. I think this is the first time I've ever done this. We met as a property committee last week. There were a few items that we discussed that have kind of come up recently, so I'll just kind of go through them as we can. The first is, and maybe the most important, as we all know, we had Hurricane Ida come through and did a whole lot of damage. Some of us even lost power as a result and all of that. As we all know, the Township or the Upper Dublin School District suffered some fairly significant damage. Dr. Yannick Cohn and Mr. Thorne, I saw him a second ago. Here, they've been doing, Dr. Yannick Cohn and her staff have been doing extraordinary work, and Mr. Thorne and his staff have been doing extraordinary work to get our school district up and running. They've also made our fields available if the Upper Dublin School District needs it. So far, they haven't needed to use our fields, but those have been made available. We discussed, Mr. Lapidus, who's not here, I think said it really well. In discussing what fee we would charge, we discussed the possibility of letting them use the, just due to the extraordinary circumstances and the fact that our neighbors are in such need, letting them use our fields at no charge. Not that we want to set a precedent necessarily, but just given the extraordinary need, we thought it would be a good idea. And as I said, he put it so well, if this happened to us, we would hope that our neighbors would do the same for us. So I think that's a good idea. I think we all think it's a good idea. Now, as I said, they haven't needed to do that. So they haven't needed to use our field, so none of it has come to fruition yet, but that was the first item on our agenda. Secondly, and this is more of a heads up sort of potential, but I didn't want anyone to get mad at me that I didn't raise this if it ever comes up. Our custodial services contract with all the buildings in the district to have those cleaned may at some point be requested to be reviewed. As with everything, although we can have a larger conversation about inflation, I guess, later. Product costs have gone up, labor costs have gone up. The company providing our custodial services has said it is looking at some things, and at some point in the future, as I said, maybe there will be a conversation. If that happens, obviously we'll bring all the details to you and we'll put it up for board motion and all of that stuff. Hurricane Ida, of course, did some damage. Our garage in the bus depot had some vulnerabilities to begin with. Hurricane Ida didn't do it any favors. Mr. Thorne and his staff are looking at and have already worked with our insurance company in looking at ways to get that damage repaired. There may be some mold damage that's still being investigated around the bottom of the wall as it meets the floor. To the extent that that has to be cut out and replaced, he's working on that. We'll keep you updated, of course, as details become more available. Speaking of, Hurricane Ida has also, I don't know if exposed is the right word, reinforced, made us look at it again. Our stormwater management system, our athletic fields, as I'm sure everybody knows, suffered some damage, had to be restretched and put back into place. So Mr. Thorne and his staff are working with all of those folks as well to kind of get some sort of longer term management system in place so that the storms aren't going anywhere, but hopefully we can have a stormwater management system that allows the district to not be as damaged in the future as when these things come up. I sort of compressed a couple of things into one, so my apologies, but that concludes the report. Thank you.
I have a few questions about the field. This is not the first time that the turf field has sustained damage due to rain, right? Is there an investigation into like what is causing that and why? Is it construction? Is it the materials and kind of responsibility for that? And how are we going to?
Yeah, and obviously I'll let
Mediate that.
Dr. Yannicone and Mr. Thorne correct me where I go wrong. Mr. Thorne and his staff are looking at all of that.
Okay.
And that's all under consideration and will be part of, I don't know if it'll all be part of the plan that comes out, but that's all of it is under consideration.
Right.
I believe I talk for a living. Dr. Yannicone, did I miss anything?
No, I think you're doing just fine.
Okay.
I think between the first and second storms, Mr. Thorne met with our engineers and met with the township in order to see if there was anything else we could do. They recommended, first of all, leaving the lights on for the second storm and running cameras into the exterior vents to see if we could take a look at how and where the water was flowing. It became Spartan Lake there in the middle of the storm, the last one. And thankfully, the recovery time for the turf was quick. By the next day, Mr. Thorne's staff were able to roll the turf, both turf, actually Nixon Field and Spartan Stadium, make it playable for our athletes. It's safe and playable. And I believe, Mr. Thorne, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is it tomorrow or the next day that we're anticipating the company coming out to reseal? Sometime this week. Okay, so we're hoping to get that in better shape. And then we do have Mr. Thorne working with the township and the engineers to continue to see what else we might do, because I think my memory is correct that about 20 of the same types of fields by the same engineering company all have had these issues in heavy rain and with significant runoff.
Do we have an insurance claim on this at all, or have we had? Yes. Okay.
It is underway.
Okay, great.
We're also looking into the FEMA monies that are available through the Hurricane Ida recovery.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions? I'm sorry, you can wait until public comment at the end of the meeting. Thank you. Are there any other comments from the board?
I have this same question relative to the bus depot building, and just if we could address some of the investigations into root cause and partnering with the township on any solutions.
Sure. So Mr. Thorne has met several times with the township. He's continuing. The township was very responsive after the first storm, came out, helped us with recovery. It was a lot of mud. We had about 2 feet of water that went all the way through the bus garage in the first storm. In the second storm last week, it actually again reached Mr. Bray's office. So now we're looking at other things like wall stability, roof stability, mold, et cetera. So we want to make sure that our bus drivers and the team down there are safe. So we're continuing to look at that with our engineers and with the township. How'd I do, Mr. Thorne?
Very good.
Okay.
Good. Anything else from the board? Anything else from the board? Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Needleman. Appreciate it. Okay, we're moving on to item F, our superintendent's report. Dr. Yannicone.
Thanks, Dr. Taratuski. Good evening. I want to begin my report by taking a moment to recognize the significant damage sustained by the family and friends of many in our community, as well as a number of our staff as a result of the severe storms on the evening of our last board meeting, September 1st. Our entire community extends sincere wishes for a full recovery for those who lost their homes and businesses, for the children whose playing fields are unusable right now, and to the Upper Dublin School District leadership, staff, and students who are struggling with the temporary loss of in-person schooling at the high school and Fort Washington Elementary School. Since September 2nd, I've been in communication with Dr. Yanni, the Upper Dublin superintendent, and have extended not only our best wishes, but also ongoing support for student programs as needed. This evening, we have a board motion to waive our usual facilities use fees for the Upper Dublin Youth Football Club. Our athletic director has been working with his counterpart in Upper Dublin on field availability for their displaced high school teams. And last week, we led tours of the old Enfield building as an option for temporary elementary classrooms. Thankfully, Upper Dublin is able to utilize existing buildings for their elementary classes. Later this week, we will begin hosting an MCIU program, preschool, displaced by the building damage in Upper Dublin as well. A number of our school district staff who live in Upper Dublin have also suffered significant damage and disruption to their lives. And I want to thank them for continuing to come to work each day to support our students. We know that the past 18 months have been challenging for everyone. And for those who now have an added layer of personal loss, we are here for you and will help you in any way we can. Ms. Kerr has shared resources with the staff affected by the severe storms, and this week the county has received a federal disaster declaration and will be establishing an emergency center. More information can be found at moncopa.org/IDA for any members of our community who know family or friends who are in need. Last week, our schools opened to full in-person learning for the first time since March of 2020. Thank you. I want to thank all of our staff who worked collaboratively, to bring us to this day, and to our families and students for your continued patience, partnership, and support. It is important that everyone understand that we are not fully staffed still. We are experiencing the same workplace shortages you hear about all across the country. Our buses are full and drivers are scarce, which is having an impact on the timing of our bus routes, pickup and arrival times for students in public and non-public schools, and our ability to transport student athletes to away contests. This week, for example, Mr. Bray, our Director of Transportation, is driving the bus every day. That's where we are. We continue to interview and seek qualified candidates for bus drivers, classroom aides, building substitutes, coaches, and several full-time professional positions. Everyone is working hard to serve our students, and we appreciate your continued understanding through these challenging times. We have also, unfortunately, seen our first few positive cases of COVID since Friday, and our nurses are working rapidly to identify and notify close contacts when cases occur. Our dashboard is being updated each day as needed, and parents are encouraged to continue to be vigilant about health and safety measures to minimize the risk of exposure for yourselves, your children, and our school community. Over the past few weeks, we've been working to assess the vaccination rate of our students and staff through a faculty survey and for students through the registration portal. Nearly all staff have responded to the survey, and to date, we are holding steady at 94.31% fully vaccinated and another 0.47% partially vaccinated. There are several staff who have been advised by a physician not to take the vaccination due to personal health issues. This is an excellent rate of vaccination and a tribute to the caring nature and civic mindedness of our staff in supporting a healthy school environment. Among our students of age to receive the vaccine, just over 80% have reported that they are vaccinated. These are terrific numbers overall, and we encourage those families who have not yet chosen to become vaccinated to consider, in consultation with your doctor, doing so now. Across the county, 80% of all those 12 and older are vaccinated, according to the MCOPH. Next month, we will have a flu vaccine clinic. Families have received notification of our annual flu vaccine clinic. It will be held October 5th and 6th. As always, parents must provide written consent for your child to receive the flu vaccine, and you are not expected to be present. The flu vaccine is a great way to lower your child's risk of illness this year, and we encourage all families to participate. The families will also be receiving notification of our annual Pennsylvania Youth Survey being administered to students in grades 6, 8, 10, and 12 later this month. This survey is administered every other year. The Pennsylvania Youth Survey focuses on at-risk behaviors and protective factors for our students and provides valuable anonymous information on patterns and trends in our community that help our educators and clinical team to program for students during social emotional learning times. Additionally, these results help shape resource allocation to our district from the County Office of Behavioral Health and the Office of Drug and Alcohol, including our Student Assistance Program. Our shared goal is to raise healthy adults who will contribute positively to our Springfield community, and the PACE survey is just one tool used to support that shared mission. The University of Pennsylvania Survey of Belonging will also be administered later this month to all students in grades 4 through 12. This will be our 4th year participating in the survey, and results will help to guide our work together in supporting a welcoming and affirming community for all of our students. There has been much debate on the national stage regarding the teaching of critical race theory in schools. While this is apparently a well-known subject at the collegiate level, I had not encountered the phrase nor the topic in my 32 years in education until this spring. I have researched the topic, and our administrative team participated in an educational session with a local college professor this summer to better understand the theory and the debate surrounding it. Here in Springfield, we have neither added nor dropped anything from our curriculum as a result of the national debate. Our curriculum is available on our website, and building principals and Dr. Johnson are available at any time to speak with families with any questions about units of study. As an administrative team and faculty, we remain committed to our district mission to educate and develop all students as learners and citizens who are high-achieving, resilient, and responsible in a changing global community. We teach historically and scientifically accurate course content K through 12, which includes readings and lessons that challenge our students to consider multiple perspectives, to think critically, and to judge for themselves. We are committed to ensuring that every child receives a high-quality education, regardless of their race, ethnicity, economic circumstances, gender, disability, history of trauma, or other factors. We also fully support our district vision statement on equity, adopted by the board in September of 2019. Recognizing the diversity of our community, the School District of Springfield Township is committed to and accountable for advancing equity and excellence for all of our students. We in the School District of Springfield Township endeavor to provide equitable opportunities for high-level, meaningful, and engaging learning experiences for each and every student, regardless of racial or ethnic background, economic condition, or other dimension of identity or difference. We recognize that in order to achieve educational equity, we must apply principles of fairness and justice in the allocation of resources and work toward the elimination of institutional barriers to access and opportunity. We aim to ensure that funding, policies, practices, and initiatives will enable every student to receive what they need to maximize their success. In order to foster growth toward equity, we must engage in continuous reflection and ongoing measurement of our efforts. My last topic before the Spartan Spotlight is grant funding in the pandemic. At our last meeting, several incorrect statements were made and repeated about federal and state grant funding and how those funds are being used by the district. Tonight, I've prepared a few slides to provide a brief overview for the public and the board to clarify the facts. So I'm going to share my screen. All right. Okay, Mr. Oliver, can everybody see the screen? Yes. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go through these slides, and I want to let everybody know that at the end, I'll show you where there are opportunities where I'll be repeating this presentation at community meetings over the next month of October, so that if there are questions or concerns, they can be asked at that time, or certainly comments can be made at the end of the meeting. So there's a lot of money, federal money, that's come to the district and all school districts as a result of the pandemic. So first of all, we received the Community Cares Esser grant. And let me just, hold on one second, I want to make sure, yes. So you're going to see on the blue side of these slides, March 10th, 2020 as the first date for every one of these buckets of money. The reason for that is all of the federal dollars, we are allowed to go back and attribute costs up through March 10th of 2020. So even if we incurred something that we didn't initially attribute to it, We can go back to March 10th, which they consider the first date of the pandemic. So initially, we received a community cares grant. These were pass-through funds from the county for hybrid learning and sanitization of facilities. That was just about $350,000. You see that there? And these are the ways in which we spent that money. All of that money has already been allocated and spent. Educational software, PPE, student and staff devices, access points for those students who didn't have internet access, instructional aid support when we needed to de-densify the buildings, custodial support, and we had to move a lot of our furniture from our 4 main buildings to the old Enfield building in order to create space for social distancing. Then we received a grant, the GEER grant. This is the Governor's Emergency Education Relief to assist with COVID compensatory relief. This was a much smaller grant, as you see there, just about $20,000. And that grant we had to use for compensatory services. This was specifically for students who are identified with an IEP, who missed time during the 2020-2021 school year. And since we started on September 21st, it was a short period of time with that group, but these were for compensatory services which were delivered this past summer. Then came the Pccd Health and Safety Grant. This grant had to be spent by last October 2020, just over $212,000. This is the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, School Safety and Security Funding Grant. That was to implement health and safety measures. That entire grant went towards PPE supplies and custodial support for COVID cleaning. The next grant was the Esser Pccd grant. This grant we have until the end of next September to spend. We have spent almost all of it. You may recall that at a recent board meeting, the board approved bipolarization units to improve the air quality in large group instruction areas. This is state-of-the-art equipment that was installed in order to make sure that our cafeterias, gymnasiums, large group areas are basically zapping any bad particles before they would get to our children and staff. It's my unofficial term, zapping it. Thank you, okay. The next grant was the Esser 1. This grant we have until next September as well. This grant is $210,000, just over that. This is the CARES funding. CARES funding was, again, for developing strategies and implementing public health protocols. So there was a percentage of that was required to go to our non-public schools that was allocated to them. PPE, again, because we continue to purchase and use PPE. Hybrid learning technology, such as our instructional software, and the devices we used last year for concurrent teaching. We created some outdoor learning spaces, bought new furniture for those spaces. We had some transportation support that was needed and some custodial support. The next grant is the Esser 2. That grant we have another year, so we have quite a bit remaining because we have plenty of time. We don't have to spend this until September 30th of 2023. This is the CRRSA grant to support learning loss, social, emotional, and mental health, and to prepare schools for reopening. With this grant money, part of it we have used thus far for Spartan Summer Academy staffing and supplies, for additional PPE for the summer, and we did food service. We offered breakfast and lunch to families all through the summer months because we continue to have families who are negatively impacted economically as a result of the pandemic. We do anticipate spending a good bit of the remaining money on the next several summer Spartan Academies, technology devices and software for our students and staff, a server upgrade because we are using this technology at a much higher rate. We're adding some flexible learning spaces in our buildings as a result of that, and we want to make sure that our MTSS, which is multi-tiered systems of support, basically mental health resources for our students across the district, having resources in that area as needed over the next 2 years. And then the ARP Esser, which sometimes is called the Esser 3, that we have another year. So they're projecting out that we will have significant impact for our students over the next few years as a result of the pandemic in multiple areas. So we have $1.892 million, almost $1.893, that has not been touched. The ARP requires that 20% will address learning loss through evidence-based interventions responding to the academic, social, and emotional needs, and to address disproportionate impact on underrepresented groups. Nationally, there is data to support that students in poverty and students of color are suffering greatly as compared to their peers. In addition to that, also students for whom English is not their native language. This portion of the grant requires community input, and there will be a survey going out to all families for feedback. We're also going to have discussion at a number of parent meetings, and we're waiting because we're not starting to identify pots for that money to go into until we start to see some data this year when we're fully in person, 5 days a week, and we can start to get some more accurate data on student achievement. So, and then there's this last pot, and maybe it's not the last, but it's the last one we have available to us right now. Again, we have 3 years to spend these funds. An additional pot of money, smaller pot for learning loss, summer enrichment, and after school programs. And we're still, quite honestly, looking through how we might use those funds in addition to Esser 3 or the first part of Esser 3. So I want to invite the public, if you have questions or feedback or input on potential uses for these funds. First of all, and this presentation will be available on the website, there's a link there to an article in Education Week from Friday, which I think is very accessible, user-friendly, helps to explain how all these grants came about, ways in which districts have been encouraged to use the funds. And then we have 4 meetings coming up next month, and they're all open to the public. Happy to have your input in addition to the survey that'll go out. We have our EEHSP meeting on October 4th at 7 o'clock. We have our Finance Committee meeting where Ms. Green and I want to let the public know, Ms. Green has had a name change recently. So while she's been referred in the past as Ms. Michaels, she's now Ms. Green, all right? So you don't think I'm making people up. So Ms. Green is going to be providing a drilled down report on the use of these Esser dollars at our Finance Committee meeting. All right, I just wanted to provide an overview tonight. We have the Multicultural Parents Association meeting that we'll be attending on October 14th at 6:30. And then we have our high school and middle school meeting, STS HSP, on October 20th. So over the course of that month, I'll be at each of those meetings. Happy to take your questions, feedback, input at any of those public meetings. Right, and I'm gonna shift, let me stop share. And finally, we have our Spartan Spotlight tonight. For that, we're going to focus tonight on September 11th. As you all know, our nation commemorated the 20th anniversary of the tragedies in New York City, Schwenksville, and Washington, D.C. on Saturday. Yesterday, our staff and students were invited to reflect upon the anniversary and the many ways in which first responders and the general public united in the days, weeks, and months that followed. Our Spartan Spotlight is the commemoration of the September 11th anniversary, and here to present is Mr. Pierre Larocco, our high school assistant principal.
Good evening. Thank you, members of the board, Dr. Yannicone, the general public, and my colleagues who are present here. The assistant principals this year put together an age-appropriate recognition of the 20th anniversary of September 11th, 2001. We did that in a couple of different ways. For Enfield, which is our K-2 building, they presented a short morning announcement explaining about the event, the day, followed by a moment of silence. At Erdenheim, our 3 through 5 building, they shared with the students a poem, which was relevant to September 11th. along with a moment of silence after the poem. The secondary, the middle school and the high school, what we did was we put together a video. We used a History Channel video as a resource, and then within it, we wanted our students to hear from the staff here, who they see, they know, they trust. So what we did was the staff answered 3 questions. Where were they on September 11th, 2001? What impact that had on them personally, and what impact they felt that had on the country. So the middle school is going to show this video during their history classes this week, followed up by a classroom discussion. The high school, we showed it on Monday during homeroom. The video has embedded in it a moment of silence. So every school in the district observed a moment of silence. And the high school showed it at homeroom. And then when we went to A block, something really neat happened. Students were very somber in the hallways between homeroom and A block. And according to our teachers, students continued the conversation in A block. And there was some natural and organic learning going on, which makes us really excited as educators. So right now, I put together some of the video. I put together some parts of the video to share with everyone.
As an individual, 9/11 has impacted me greatly. I have learned not to take life for granted, celebrate each and every day, and I personally appreciate and I'm blessed with everything that I have. And it really makes me reflect and think about those things. I think as a country, it has unified America. And again, I think to what I said earlier, personally, to live each and every day to its fullest and celebrate all that we have.
I think the way it affected me is the way it affected a lot of people. It was a sense of, you lost your sense of security and you lost privacy. It used to be, and I know for young people it's hard to imagine, but it used to be you just walked into a building. You just went in. We didn't have to wear tags. When you went on an airplane, you just got on the airplane. You didn't get your luggage searched. You didn't have to go through a scanner, nothing like that. And you didn't, if you made a phone call to specific countries, you didn't assume that the government was going to be checking up on that phone call. You just, called your relatives or your friends in that country. So I think that legacy is still with us today, and it's really sad. It's really sad. So salute to the men and women who lost their lives in that horrific incident.
I was worried about my friends, about my family, about my cousin who was in national security in New York City, who I later found out was one of the people pulling individuals from the buildings and getting them to safety. And I was worried for all of us and scared of, where would the next attack be? When would the next plane crash? What's happening around us? Are my friends and family safe? When am I going to be able to talk to them? What am I going to do tomorrow when my students do know, possibly, if their parents shared it with them, when they do know what happened? How do we talk about this? How do we get through this as a nation, as a community?
It was an event that was landmark. It was an event in time where you remembered exactly where you were, what you were doing, and it affected you for many, many years.
We as a nation after that became very patriotic. It was a coming together as Americans, and we became very proud of our country.
Both my family and as a country, as a country, it was this overwhelming sense of America, and we were going to take care of ourselves. We were going to pull each other up, and help the people in need. People were displaced, families were torn apart. I really do feel like we came together, and as a family, we spent a lot more time together, just thinking, life is pretty short, and spending with good people like that.
as a nation, I remember we came together. We saw that there was a common foe, so to speak, and I think we kind of all rallied together to help people, no matter where those people were, or no matter who those people were in our country. People turning to other people and saying, hey, can I help you with something? It was just, everybody was looking out for each other more then.
And I think in the aftermath, and now that it's been 20 years, I think the way that people came together to pitch in and help those that were trapped and help the city be rebuilt where it was damaged, and the bonds that got created, which often happens when tragedy happens. Those in the surrounding areas rally and help. If you just look at the storms recently in Fort Washington and Upper Dublin, all the damage that the weather created there, and all the people that were out helping. That's what happens that's what happens here, and I think that's what makes us a great cultural society, is we rally and help those. We have lots of people down in Louisiana helping after the hurricane down there, from all over the country, and so the rallying for those in New York and first responders, I think, has been a bonding point for lots of us.
The one thing that I really took away from 9/11 was how everyone came together. You saw American flags everywhere. We were proud to be Americans and patriots, and people wanted to help. It was the first time in my experience that people wanted to help their fellow American, no matter who they were, just because they were Americans. So that's a little glimpse of our video that we showed the secondary students. I'd like to thank everyone for their interest in allowing me to speak for the Spartan Spotlight today. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
That concludes my report. Sir.
All right. So let's move on with our agenda. Item G, number 1, human resources. It's our personnel attachment. The Board of School Directors approves the following personnel as presented in the attachment: administrative personnel, certificated personnel, support personnel, extra pay for extra responsibilities for 2021, 2022, and conference workshop attendance. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second? Any comments or questions from the board? Ms. Green.
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. DeFranco.
Aye.
Dr. Etlin. Ms. Jordan. Mr. Needleman. Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski. Dr. Taratuski.
Aye. Next item H, under academic affairs, number 1, our interagency agreement for Title II professional development services. The Board of School Directors approves the interagency agreement for Title II-A professional development services between the School District of Springfield Township and the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit from July 1, 2021 through September 30th, 2024. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions from the board? Okay, Ms. Green? Okay, thank you.
What type of professional development services does that entail for the 3
So
years?
this interagency agreement is a 3-year agreement between the intermediate unit and us for them to deliver non-public schools' share of federal funds. So they are choosing the professional development. We just are the facilitator.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Green?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. DeFranco.
Aye.
Dr. Etlin. Ms. Jordan. Mr. Needleman. Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski. Dr. Taratuski.
Aye. Number 2, Memorandum of Understanding 2021-22 MCIU Title III Consortium. The Board of School Directors approves the 2021-22 MCIU Title III Consortium Memorandum of Understanding. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Can you just review, Dr. Yannicone, what Title III covers?
Sure. Title III is for English language support services. This is a consortium between the district and the intermediate unit. They pool all the resources across the county and then provide us support in that area.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Ms. Green?
Mr. Bedard?
Aye.
Mr. DeFranco?
Aye.
Dr. Etlin? Ms. Jordan? Mr. Needleman? Ms. Sarsfield?
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski?
Aye.
Dr. Taratuski?
Aye. Number 3, interagency agreement for Title IV services. The Board of School Directors approves the interagency agreement for Title IV services between the School District of Springfield Township and the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit from July 1, 2021 through September 30th, 2024. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Dr. Yannicone, I'll just ask if you can clarify what Title IV services would be.
Sure. So there's a long list of educational support resources. This is also non-public funds. And so this is the intermediate unit managing those funds on our behalf in support of the non-public schools.
Any other questions from the board? Ms. Green?
Mr. Bedard?
Aye.
Mr. DeFranco?
Aye.
Dr. Etlin? Ms. Jordan? Mr. Needleman? Ms. Sarsfield?
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski?
Aye.
Dr. Taratuski?
Aye. Under policy, number 1, policy 000, board policy procedure administrative regulations. Okay. And these are board policies that were presented at the last board meeting, are currently in our board policy manual, and are being reviewed and reapproved. The Board of School Directors approves the second reading of policy 000, board policy procedures, administrative regulations, as recommended by PSBA. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second? Any comments or questions from the board? Ms. Green?
Mr. Bedard?
Aye.
Mr. DeFranco?
Aye.
Dr. Etlin? Ms. Jordan? Mr. Needleman? Ms. Sarsfield?
Aye. Sorry.
Ms. Lipinski? Dr. Taratuski?
Aye. Number 2, policy 002, authority and powers. The Board of School Directors approves the second reading of policy 002, authority and powers, as recommended by PSBA. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second. Any comments or questions from the board? Okay. Ms. Green?
Mr. Bedard?
Aye.
Mr. DeFranco?
Aye.
Dr. Etlin? Ms. Jordan? Mr. Needleman? Ms. Sarsfield?
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski? Dr. Taratuski?
Aye. Number 3, policy 003, functions. The Board of School Directors approves the second reading of policy 003, functions, as recommended by PSBA. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second. Any comments or questions? Ms. Green?
Mr. Bedard?
Aye.
Mr. DeFranco?
Aye.
Dr. Etlin? Ms. Jordan? Mr. Needleman? Ms. Sarsfield?
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski? Dr. Taratuski?
Aye. Number 5, policy 007, policy manual access. The Board of School Directors approves the second reading of policy 007, policy manual access, as recommended by PSBA. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second.
Second.
Any comments or questions from the board? Ms. Green?
Mr. Bedard?
Aye.
Mr. DeFranco?
Aye.
Dr. Etlin? Ms. Jordan? Mr. Needleman? Ms. Sarsfield?
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski? Dr. Taratuski?
Aye. Section K, property. Number 1, Upper Dublin Youth Football Club fields request. The Board of School Directors, where did I go? Over to my next one. The Board of School Directors approves a modification in the use of facilities fee schedule for the Upper Dublin Youth Football Club for no more than 6 weeks, beginning Wednesday, September 15th, fees waived, Monday through Friday, for a maximum of 3 hours per day for the use of the multipurpose field at Church Road and Paper Mill Road. This modification is due to extenuating circumstances of the recent severe storm damage to the fields of Upper Dublin Township. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second. Any comments or questions from the board? Ms. Green?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. DeFranco.
Aye.
Dr. Etlin. Ms. Jordan. Mr. Needleman. Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Ms. Lipinski. Dr. Tartuski.
Aye. At this time, we will have public comments on non-agenda items. We have several folks who are signed up from the in-person meeting, and we'll check to see if anyone has signed up from the online meeting.
No signups.
Okay,
From the
and
online
if you
meeting.
wish to speak and you are online, you can use the hand raise feature, or you can put a request to speak in the chat. Okay. Again, I just want to request that you speak once during this time period and try to keep comments to 3 minutes so that we can allow everyone to speak and we can allow the board to really pay attention and focus on your comments. Okay.
Our first speaker is Mr. Bernard Kling.
I'd like to thank the members of the board. My name is Bernard Kling. I'm a resident of 1909 Sycamore Lane for 53 years of my life. I heard Mr. Needleman speak about the recent storm damage and the runoff and the importance of dealing with runoff. I just would like to comment that I hope it is well known that an adjacent property, the woods that you see on the horizon here, are up for sale for institutional development. It is my understanding, and I know you're not the Township Council or Board of Commissioners, that the school district, or however it works, several years ago, maybe before you were here, decided not to buy that land. It is my suggestion that if you want to deal with runoff, that you vigorously reconsider making an offer for that land. However that's done. Obviously, you guys know how to get grants and make private public consortiums. I would look into that, because it's not going to help if the trees are cut down. And I also can't think of a worse lesson ecologically to our students than to seeing the horizon, the trees on the horizon go down and an institution be put up. Now, I would also say that you might consider something outside of the box. Like you might use that institution, whatever you do put on that land, you may have an ecological education center put up. So I just want to say that, you know, you have something literally right next door that's going to impact your, the ecology, the stormwater runoff right now. And I think the board should get involved in that again and revisit whether Springfield can purchase that land. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, you're going to have to hold your applause. This is not time for that. So we'll just allow the comments so that everybody can get a chance to speak. Thank you.
Our next speaker signed up was Mary Ellen Reeves.
Hi, good evening, Mary Ellen Reeves, 214 Station Avenue. Dr. Janicone, you had mentioned that as a whole of the district, you needed to get a grasp on student achievement data. And I just want to get an understanding of what that is. Is that a needs assessment for reading, math, what that looks like?
Mrs. Reeves, this is a comment period. It's not a question and answer period.
Okay.
If you have questions about that, you can direct that to Dr. Janicone through email.
Okay. Well, then my comment is that I would really hope that that assessment data takes place sooner rather than later. As you had mentioned, children of color, you know, there may be a needs assessment. I think to use school time wisely so that gets addressed, so every child has an opportunity to have the best education that this board and these teachers in this district can provide, is of utmost importance. I spent 12 years in the public school system, and I am passionate about the excellent education that I received there. I know this board and your school teachers can provide the same. I do hope that that achievement data and that needs assessment is completed sooner rather than later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Reeves.
Our next sign-up speaker was Mr. Jeff Gornu. Sorry if I mispronounced.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Cornell. I live on Surrey Road in Orland. The last board meeting, I asked 2 questions. The first one was since there was a lot of comments about critical race theory from residents, could the board make available any curriculum pertaining to social interaction or race specifically? The response I received was that the curriculum is available in the school district of Springfield Township's website. The second one was what metric will the board use to decide when and if to lift the mask mandate once the state has lifted their own for the schools? The response I received was that the board follows the recommendation of the county Board of Health. I'd like to follow up on both of those questions tonight and responses, first by saying that I checked the website before asking the question. At the last meeting, and the curriculum was not posted, at least for the elementary school. That fact was later discussed during the public comment, at which time it was stated that the elementary curriculum was still under review and it should be posted shortly. Since that time, an outline of the curriculum has been posted. From what I could find, most of what was posted in regard to social interaction or race is a general outline of how things will be discussed and what the objectives are. But there was a lack of content, in my opinion. Towards the bottom of the social emotional learning section of the school district website, I found a link for social justice standards after the title SDST adopted. The link that takes you to is for learningforjustice.org. Doing a brief search on this website's origins, you'll find that it is the new title of the previously named Teaching Tolerance, which is a product of the Southern Poverty Law Center. If you've ever heard of the SPLC, a brief search of the internet will reveal that they are far left radical organization that labels Christian groups all over the country as hate groups. This organization provides periodical newsletters and videos free of charge to thousands of teachers and administrators all over the country for the purpose of forming lesson plans. So I decided to skim through the fall of 2021 newsletter last night, only to find very quickly the following. I'll just cite 3 quick things. A link to an article in the fall issue of Learning for Justice titled "The Weaponization of Whiteness in Schools." I suggest any parent that is unfamiliar with this subject read it and follow some of the embedded links. It's pretty eye-opening. Next is an article entitled "A Flaw in the Foundation," which contains
You
a
have
quote.
30 seconds remaining.
Okay. A quote from Brianna Thomas, which reads, "We are taught that green is good color for our walls and that at least 20% of our walls should be bare, but we never discuss the practices that we see in the field and how they are rooted in white supremacist ideology." And the last one was an article titled "What It Means to Be an Anti-Racist Teacher," in which the author suggests that racism and white supremacy should be discussed in all subjects. There are many more articles and snippets in a 68-page newsletter, but in my view, they are all almost along the same theme. Teach kids to view every aspect of human life through the lens of race and to teach kids to become activists. I'm not sending my child to school so that he or she can become an activist for someone else's political ideology, or to learn that he or she is irredeemable due to actions that were taken before they were even born. And I'll skip to my response to the second. I thank
We
you for
appreciate
your
your
time.
time. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, good job. I can't clap, but good job.
Our next sign-up was Mr. Matt Palmer.
How you doing? Thanks for hearing me out. My name's Matt. I live in Orland. I have a son with special needs, and when the pandemic hit, he drastically regressed. When he went back to school with masks, he never made any progress. So I didn't know we couldn't do a kind of a question and answer thing here, but I guess my big concern is, well, was critical race theory, but Jeff kind of covered that. Masks for my family and myself specifically, and mostly my son. He does not speak. He says words and phrases, but he can't answer a question. So I guess I'll ask the board to really reconsider why and the effects on children that these masks have in their learning. Because everything that we were taught when we were going through early intervention was hold up whatever you want him to talk about and put it next to your cheek so he can see your lips moving. And obviously you can't do that with masks. Same thing with, social and emotional cues. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Now we have Mr. Jim Daly.
Good evening, everyone. Jim Daly, Pen Oak Road, Flowertown. Just to touch on, I guess, with respect to the stormwater management and the bus situation. Speaking Mr. Kling's suggestions, there was actually something floated around the last couple of days. I believe there was a planning commission meeting a week ago with respect to that property adjacent to here on Hawes Lane. No decision's been yet. That's at the planning commission stage, so there's no been decision by the Board of Commissioners. It also referenced an article from the Chestnut Hill Local that indicated that, my glasses are fogging up, that as I believe it was May, that property was offered to the school district and to the township. That was in the Chestnut Hill article, not any article that to where I saw it at, and it was actually linked again today. So there's been no decision. The property, the entity that bought it, they're proposing, I think, a 34 to 40 home or condominiums or some type of townhomes. So I would suggest as doing across the street with respect to stormwater management throughout the township, because of how the township is built out, some of the only options you have is through eminent domain or through whatnot to secure these properties and be creative. The bus depot situation down there, and if you give me a little bit, I'm trying with my wind, the bus depot situation, you all know, has been an issue for years. Been trying to find different places for the buses. I mean, just thinking out of the box, if you were able to acquire that property next door and use a portion of it for maybe the bus depot and then the other half for something ecological or fields or whatnot, because the money you're losing on with whatever the number is for the football field and the re-turfing and resodding and all this stuff and everything you've done around here, $30 million, I don't know what the number is offhand, but to purchase a property for $1 million to solve a potential $20 million problem might be in your best interest to think out of the box. I know if I was still on the Board of Commissioners right now, I'd be working with you to purchase that property right now. Anytime you can grab land that's adjacent to your property, you grab it because you can expand your campus, and even if it's just for stormwater management, that's something to do. I mean, the FEMA a couple of years ago came to the realization we got to stop building where we keep getting flooded and just acquire the properties and turn them into.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
If you give me a little bit, I'm just trying to help you out a little bit. Anyway, that would be my suggestion to the board. I'm glad to be a resource anytime you want. We worked on it for 12 years. We're still going on. And just personally, if I could, I'd like to thank Dr. Yankin and Dr. Mack. They've been answering my questions. They always answer in a professional manner. They get back to questions right away, or if it's a weekend or something, they get back as soon as they can. We may have follow-up questions. We may have differences. We even may disagree or maybe miscommunicate. And my suggestion to the board members is, and people show me social media and whatnot. As a board member, I would only suggest that you have a higher standard, and when parents ask questions, to make fun of them or disparage them in any way, whether it's a flip remark or a cheeky whatnot, that doesn't do any of us good. So I would just suggest that you take that type of professional advice, and we're all fault of it sometimes. But when parents ask intelligent questions or questions about the curriculum for their children, you don't send your kid to the movies with somebody else's parent unless you know what movie they're saying, what the content is. PG-13 movies, R-rated movies, some things may be too much for our students to handle, and that should be a parent's choice.
Your 3 minutes
Go opt
has
out of it.
expired.
Thanks,
So,
Jim.
I truly appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our last sign up in person was Mr. Bob Lynch.
I have sent my clock for 3. First of all, Bob Lynch, I live in Orland. And I really don't appreciate the fact that you guys don't have a question and answer part. You just let us talk and you just nod your heads and then you tell us our time's up and we walk away. So I won't ask any questions, but I'll make comments. So my comment is that you said unequivocally that there will be no CRT in our schools this year. Is that correct? Right? That's correct. You said it. I heard you. So I'm going on that. So if anything happens like that, I'm going to come back at you. Second of all, the fact that you say we follow the state's mandates, and you didn't follow the state's mandates last year when there was a bunch of school districts that didn't have masks on, but you chose to make our kids wear masks. And I totally disagree with that. And I also don't understand why we spent $1 million on a football field and now, less than 4 years later, we're spending more money because of irrigation problems. Didn't we have that same problem at Erdenheim? Didn't we spend millions of dollars on Erdenheim because of poor engineering and poor planning? We did. So, okay, I'll answer for you. Yes, we did, Bob. Yes, we did. You know? So, you know what I mean? It's like, you guys got to relax and open up a little bit. You know, you sat there and you just read. You're like Joe Biden on teleprompter. No hope, blah, 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 blah. And then when my time comes up, you give me 3 minutes, you won't answer a question, and it's ridiculous. You guys work for us. Don't you understand that? You represent us. And it's just, it's embarrassing. You don't put out an agenda. You don't tell us the curriculum. I have no idea what my grandchildren are reading until I actually look at their work. And I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for the pandemic and being home and watching Zoom and seeing some of the stuff that these kids are learning, and just remember one thing, because I know my time's running out. If your child, whether they're 10,
You have 30
15,
seconds remaining.
oh, okay, well, whatever, throw me out. Get that guard.
Sir, you will go out if you don't go by the rules, sir.
Okay. Listen, if your kid knows your teacher's political affiliation, your teacher is wrong. Your teacher is there to teach you, not to teach you what she thinks or he thinks. There should be no politics in these schools, no Democrat, no socialist, no nothing
Minutes
like
has
that.
expired. Thanks, Mr. Lynch.
My time is, now.
Thank you.
What the hell? There were no other signups for non-agenda items and no hands raised on the online.
Okay. Certainly, if you have questions regarding curriculum or any questions about what is being taught in classroom, you are welcome to email the teacher, to email the principal, to email Dr. Yannicone, and your answer will be, your question will be answered. I see a hand raised in the audience. Okay. Yes, you can. Yep. Thank you. Sure. Come on up.
Hi, I'm Kathy Trinkle from Sycamore Lane in Flowertown. Since I can't ask a question, I'm just going to make it into a comment. Dr. Yannicone, you talked about this survey that's going to be coming up. Are the parents going to be able to get a copy of the survey and do it with the children, or do they do it independently in the school, especially the 4th graders on up? And I believe I heard you say the University of Penn, I don't know if it's the hospital or the school, is helping with the one for the younger students. So considering that Penn is pretty leaning left, especially with their agenda with transgender, LGBT, are the parents going to be able to see these questions ahead of time? And I would hope that their parents would go over this survey with them. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in public that would wish to speak that has not already spoken? Thank you very much.
Thank you for violating a person's constitutional right to address you with an intimidating security guard.
I'm sorry.
There's no reason.
Thank you. Future meeting dates. The board will be meeting on September 14th. Excuse me. The board. I'm sorry. We're trying to end the meeting.
Ask me to leave, and I will sue this district, and I will sue whoever your employer is.
Future meeting dates, September 14th, 2021 is a regular board meeting date. An interim board meeting will be held on Tuesday, October the 5th, 2021. That will be a hybrid meeting. Tuesday, October the 19th, 2021 will also be a hybrid meeting. And future committee meeting dates, September 14th, 2021 is a regular board meeting. And let's see what else. Is that it? Academic Affairs will be Monday, October the 11th at 5 p.m. That's a virtual meeting. Finance Committee will be held on Thursday, October the 14th at 8 a.m. That is a virtual meeting. Okay. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate your comments and have a good evening. The meeting's adjourned.